They say love conquers all, but nobody tells you about the casualties left in its wake. I'm Emily, and 5 years ago, I fell in love with Alexander Chen, heir to one of the largest real estate development companies on the West Coast. The fairy tale version ends there. The reality is much more complicated. I met Alex at Seattle Children's Hospital, where I worked as a pediatric nurse. He was there visiting his cousin's child, and I was doing my rounds. There was nothing dramatic about our first meeting, just a simple question about where to find the cafeteria. But something clicked. Maybe it was how he made the scared children laugh with his terrible dad jokes, or how he remembered every patient's name on the oncology floor after just one visit. "You're different from the other nurses," he said during our third encounter. "You don't just treat the illness, you treat the spirit." I laughed it off, but inside, my heart was doing somersaults. "And you're different from our usual visitors. Most people can't wait to escape this place." What I didn't know then was that Alex was supposed to be at a business lunch with one of his father's potential investors. Instead, he was sitting in the hospital playroom, helping me organize a puppet show for the kids in long-term care. Our love story wasn't supposed to happen. Alex was meant to marry Catherine Morrison, daughter of another real estate tycoon. A merger of empires disguised as a marriage. I was just a nurse from a middle-class family in Tacoma, with student loans that would take decades to pay off. The whispers started as soon as our relationship became public. Gold digger, they called me at the charity galas Alex took me to. Social climber, they whispered at the country club events. But it was Marcus Chen, Alex's father, who turned those whispers into shouts. "She's after the family money," he declared during our first and only dinner at the Chen mansion. "A nurse? Please, she probably researched our family and planned this whole thing." I sat there, my soup growing cold, as Marcus listed every reason why I wasn't good enough for his son. My hands trembled under the table, but Alex's grip kept me anchored. "That's enough, Dad." Alex's voice cut through his father's tirade. "Emily is the woman I love. Either accept that, or accept that you'll lose your son." The silence that followed was deafening. Grace Chen, Alex's mother, dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered napkin while Marcus's face turned an alarming shade of red. "If you choose her," Marcus said, each word dripping with venom, "you can forget about your inheritance, your position in the company, everything. I'll cut you off completely." Alex stood up, took my hand, and walked out of that mansion without looking back. That night, as we sat in my tiny apartment eating takeout Chinese food, he seemed more relieved than devastated. "I've been living someone else's life," he admitted, picking at his chow mein. "Maybe this is my chance to live my own." Alex started from scratch. He liquidated his personal investments before his father could freeze them and opened a small real estate consultancy. I kept working at the hospital, and together we built a life that was modest but ours. We got married in a simple ceremony at the courthouse, followed by a celebration in my parents' backyard. None of the Chens attended. 2 years into our marriage, we were blessed with twins, Lily and Lucas. The pregnancy was difficult, and I had to stop working to avoid complications. Alex's business was doing well, but medical bills strained our finances. Still, we managed. We were happy. Then, 3 months ago, Lucas started bruising easily. He was tired all the time, and what we thought was a persistent flu wouldn't go away. The diagnosis hit us like a thunderbolt: acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Our world narrowed to hospital rooms and medical terms: chemotherapy, bone marrow transplants, clinical trials. The costs were astronomical, even with insurance. Alex took out loans, we maxed out credit cards, and I sold every piece of jewelry I owned, including my engagement ring. My former colleagues at Seattle Children's became our support system. They helped us navigate the healthcare maze, found clinical trials Lucas qualified for, and sometimes even worked extra shifts to ensure one of them was always available for him. Dr. Sarah Martinez, Lucas's oncologist, became our guardian angel. "We're seeing good progress," she'd tell us, showing us his latest test results. "Lucas is a fighter," and he was. Through the hair loss, the nausea, the endless needle pricks, our 4-year-old boy kept smiling. Lily, his twin sister, refused to leave his side, sleeping in the hospital room more often than not. We were barely keeping our heads above water financially, but Alex never once suggested reaching out to his family. He worked longer hours, took on more clients. and somehow always managed to have a new toy for the kids when they had tough days at the hospital. Then, last Tuesday, everything changed. I was at the hospital with Lucas when a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Grace Chen, my mother-in-law, looking every bit as elegant as the last time I'd seen her, but somehow smaller, more fragile. "Emily," she said, her voice breaking. "We need your help. Marcus, he's dying." I stared at Grace Chen, trying to process her words. Lucas had finally fallen asleep after his latest round of chemotherapy, his small body curled around his favorite stuffed dinosaur. The steady beeping of his heart monitor filled the silence between us. "Dying," I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Grace nodded, sinking into the visitor's chair. She looked older than I remembered, worry lines etching deep grooves around her eyes. "End-stage renal disease. He needs a kidney transplant." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was spending my days in a children's oncology ward, watching my son fight for his life, while the man who called me a gold digger was facing his own mortality. "We've all been tested," Grace continued, her perfectly manicured hands twisting in her lap. "Alex's sister, me, our extended family, even Catherine Morrison volunteered. None of us are matches." She looked up at me, desperation clear in her eyes. "The doctor suggested testing non-blood relatives. You're our last hope." I felt a laugh bubble up in my throat, but I swallowed it down. "You haven't spoken to us in 5 years, I said, keeping my voice low to avoid waking Lucas. "You didn't come to our wedding. You've never met your grandchildren. And now you want my kidney?" "I know we don't deserve your help," Grace admitted, and for the first time, I heard genuine regret in her voice. "But Marcus is running out of time. The dialysis isn't enough anymore. Please just get tested. If you're not a match, we'll never bother you again." I looked at Lucas, his face peaceful in sleep despite the tubes and monitors surrounding him. How many times had I wished for a miracle cure for him? How many nights had I bargained with the universe, promising anything in exchange for his health? "I'll think about it," I said finally. Grace left her card with a handwritten note on the back, Marcus's blood type and the contact information for his transplant team. I slipped it into my pocket, where it felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. That night, after the night nurse had taken Lucas's vitals and Lily was asleep in the fold-out chair, I told Alex about his mother's visit. He listened silently, his face unreadable in the dim light of the hospital room. "What are you thinking?" I asked when he hadn't spoken for several minutes. "I'm thinking about karma," he said finally, "and about how life has a way of humbling even the proudest people." He took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "But this has to be your decision, Em. You don't owe them anything." The next morning, I called the transplant center. The initial blood tests showed I was a potential match. Further testing confirmed it. I was compatible enough to donate a kidney to Marcus Chen. When the transplant coordinator called with the results, I didn't immediately say yes. Instead, I asked for a meeting with Marcus and Grace. They agreed to come to the hospital. They arrived the next day, Marcus in a wheelchair despite his obvious reluctance to appear weak. The mighty Marcus Chen, brought low by failing kidneys. He looked nothing like the intimidating figure who had once threatened to destroy his son's life. His skin had a grayish tinge, and his designer suit hung loose on his frame. I led them to Lucas's room. He was having a good day, sitting up in bed, working on a puzzle with Lily. Alex stood by the window, his posture tense but controlled. "Meet your grandchildren," I said, my voice steady. "This is Lily, and this is Lucas. Lucas is fighting acute lymphoblastic leukemia. He's the bravest person I know." Marcus and Grace stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the twins. Lily looked up, her eyes narrowing with curiosity. Lucas continued focusing on his puzzle, his bald head gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "The treatment costs are astronomical," I continued, pulling out a thick folder from my bag. "This is what we've paid so far. This is what we still owe. And this," I placed a final paper on top, "is the estimate for the bone marrow transplant he might need if the current treatment protocol fails." The numbers were staggering. Even mortgaging our house and depleting our savings hadn't been enough. We had to start a GoFundMe campaign, swallowing our pride to ask strangers for help, while Lucas's own grandparents lived in luxury. "I'm a match for your kidney transplant," I said, watching their faces carefully. "I'm willing to donate, but I have conditions." Marcus opened his mouth, probably to argue or negotiate, but Grace gripped his arm. silencing him. First, you will pay for Lucas's entire treatment, including any future medical needs related to his condition. Second, you will set up college funds for both twins. Third, I took a deep breath. You will apologize to Alex publicly and reinstate his position in the family and the company if he wants it. The room was silent except for the soft click of puzzle pieces as Lucas worked. Marcus looked from the medical bills to Lucas, then to Alex, who hadn't moved from his position by the window. Why? Marcus asked finally. After everything I said about you, everything I did, why would you help me? I walked over to Lucas, running my hand gently over his back. Because I'm not who you thought I was. I'm not here for your money or your status. I'm here because I love your son, and I love our children, and because I want them to learn that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is show mercy to someone who doesn't deserve it. Marcus Chen, the man who had never apologized for anything in his life, began to cry. Grace rushed to his side, but he waved her away, wheeling himself closer to Lucas's bed. I've been a fool, he said, his voice rough with emotion. A proud, stubborn fool. Alexander, he looked at his son. I'm sorry. I was wrong about everything, especially about Emily, and I've missed so much. Lucas looked up from his puzzle, studying his grandfather with serious eyes. Do you want to help me finish this? He asked, holding out a puzzle piece. It's dinosaurs. The mighty Marcus Chen wheeled himself to his grandson's bedside and took the offered piece with trembling hands. 2 months have passed since that day. The kidney transplant was successful, and Marcus is recovering well. More importantly, he's becoming the grandfather our children deserve. He visits Lucas daily, sometimes bringing new puzzles, other times just sitting quietly while Lucas sleeps. The medical bills vanished. A trust fund appeared for each of the twins. Alex was offered his place in the company again, but he declined. Instead, Marcus is investing in Alex's consultancy, allowing it to expand while remaining independent. Lucas's latest tests show the cancer is responding well to treatment. There are still tough days, still moments of fear and uncertainty, but we face them together now, all of us. Yesterday, I overheard Marcus telling Lucas a story about Alex as a little boy. They were working on another dinosaur puzzle, and Lucas was wearing a knit cap Grace had made him. Lily was curled up next to them, adding her own commentary to the story. Looking at them, I realized something profound. Sometimes the families we fight so hard to be accepted by are the ones who end up begging for our acceptance instead. And sometimes, the very things that break us apart are what ultimately bring us back together, stronger than before. We're not a perfect family. There are still awkward moments, still healing to be done. But we're learning, growing, and most importantly, we're together. And in the end, that's what truly matters. As I watch Marcus teach the twins to play chess in the hospital garden, I think about the strange turns life takes. 5 years ago, he called me a gold digger and threw us out of his life. Today, he carries my kidney and holds my children's hearts. They say love conquers all. Maybe they're right after all. It just doesn't always happen the way we expect it to.